edition of Systematic Stupidity, where we systematically discuss the systemic stupidity that has been happening in America today. Today's topic is color blindness in terms of society and the arguments against why some people think that it's stupid. What color blindness means to me is that I see everyone as a human being first and foremost, without judging them for their outer appearance, which includes their clothing, hair color, eye color, facial features, and especially not their heritage. The argument that counters color blindness is given by anti-racists, usually, which argues that saying you're colorblind means that you are ignoring the problems of minorities. And I think those arguments are problematic because they're saying that all minorities have the same problems. I like colorblindness because it allows me to be myself. The other side of the argument wants to put a racial identity on everyone, including me. And as I said before, I'm an American and I don't do racial identity. Please exclude me from your inclusive bullshit. Another reason I think anti-racists are problematic is because they're the ones actually being racist. Saying that all white people are the same and that we all have privilege, while saying that black people are all the same and have every disadvantage, is racist. And the reason I think this happens is because when you place a racial identity on someone, you essentially place a filter onto them. After the filter is put on someone, interactions are now done through the filter. You've essentially excluded everything or any other possibility for why the person's circumstances are the way they are. You reduce their entire life to stereotypes, which ironically is what the anti-racists claim they want to get away from. I feel like anti-racists are using race as a scapegoat by blaming all the problems on white supremacy and systemic racism because it can't possibly be bad choices or financial hardships or denial or projection of insecurities or the myriad of other reasons why problems exist in the world today. Placing assumptions on someone's life shortchanges the person because you don't get to the root of the potential problem. The anti-racist argument is trying to find a made-up reason for a person's problem depending on what racial category the anti-racist puts the person in. Of course, there are some cases where racism is the problem. I'm not saying racism doesn't exist. I'm saying that jumping to conclusions and saying that everything is racist is trash. Not everything has to be just one or the other. Don't anti-racists hate the binary? It's not all or nothing. Sometimes it's racism, sometimes it's not racism. That's all I'm saying. So I think colorblindness gets attacked these days because people are lazy and they don't want to take personal responsibility for their own fucking problems. So then they just blame society. Or they blame the system. Not helpful. Plenty of people are able to work their way up with merit, so saying meritocracy is bullshit is actually what is bullshit. Meritocracy is the reason America is so valuable, because everyone can start somewhere. Meritocracy is the reason the American dream exists. I don't mean the stereotypical house with a white picket fence, 2.5 kids, husband or a wife, and a dog. That's not my American dream. The American dream is what you do with it. It's whatever you want it to be for yourself. It's a rags to riches idea where it doesn't matter where you start because you can succeed with determination and by constantly trying. I think you only fail once you stop trying. So, I don't agree that meritocracy undermines minorities because life is about a series of choices. So I think the solution is that everyone needs to know that they have choices no matter what they look like, which I think is what colorblindness is. Colorblindness says your race or your perceived race or whatever racial identity someone has put on you has no bearing on what you as an individual can do with your life. If people keep telling other people that the world sees them as less than and that they'll never get ahead, maybe that's why they don't try. Maybe they think their life has been predetermined for them and they're just gonna fail forever. But if you tell people that possibilities abound, even if you don't know what those possibilities are yet, because no one does, just knowing that they do exist is inspiring. Meritocracy doesn't mean that you have to be alone or go through everything alone. You can get help along the way from opportunities that open up or people that you end up connecting with along the way. Everyone is capable of making connections, minorities included. So I hear anti-racists complain that dropping out of school is a problem for minorities. I think that dropping out of school does not mean that you will have an unsuccessful life. There are plenty of people who have dropped out of school who are now successful billionaires of CEOs, and they've started companies and they're successful. So dropping out of school doesn't mean shit. Dropping out of school just means you have free time to do something else. If you choose to do stupid things after you drop out of school that don't get you anywhere, then that's on you. If you drop out of school and you use your free time to go create a new startup company or something, then you'll be successful. Whatever your opinion is of Bill Gates, he dropped out of college and now he's a successful billionaire who somehow runs the world. Doesn't seem that shabby to me. Oprah Winfrey dropped out of school. She's a successful talk show host, TV personality, and whatever the fuck else she's doing now. School doesn't mean success. I went to college, and it didn't really teach me anything useful. I learned a lot more from life than I ever did in college. All I experienced in college was a bunch of diversity horseshit, and I wish colorblindness was applied to me at that time. I found a list of 50 college dropouts, and 13 of them were what anti-racists would consider people of color. That's about 25 to 26% of the list that were successful. So your race doesn't make you predetermined to be successful or unsuccessful. Thinking that way is not going to get you anywhere. If you're complaining that people are not talking about college when they talk about school, and that you're talking about high school and saying that people that drop out of high school are unsuccessful, Johnny Depp dropped out of high school, and now we dress up as Captain Jack Sparrow for Halloween. That's how unsuccessful Johnny Depp became. Now, I'm not saying we need to ignore the problems that society has, which the anti-racists claim that colorblind society people want. They claim that colorblind society people want to ignore the problems that society has, sweep them under the rug, and just pretend everything's okay. That is not what colorblind society people want. I know there are problems in society. Ignoring them isn't going to make them go away. Colorblind people are not proclaiming that we should deny problems. All we're saying is that we need to look at the problems objectively without looking at race. Race just polarizes everyone and causes division. A lot of times race blinds people to what the actual problem is because people get defensive and then they end up just fighting about race. And they end up screaming on their news stations because they can't calm the fuck down. I know there are poor neighborhoods and bad schools, but there are problems other than race that lie underneath the surface of why these neighborhoods and schools are terrible. Blaming white people for making the system isn't going to solve the problem of the system being fucked up. Just like blaming black people for high crime isn't going to solve the problem of neighborhoods with high crime. Bottom line is, blaming is not the solution. Blaming just pisses people off and solves nothing. Anti-racists seem more racist to me than anyone else because they insist on seeing racism everywhere, in everything, even and when in most cases it doesn't exist. They pretend it's there just to find something to complain about in order to victimize themselves. If we actually wanted to solve problems, we need to stop fighting with each other and start looking for common ground. We definitely need to stop creating problems for ourselves. We don't need to stack imaginary problems on top of actual problems while denying that the real problems actually exist and then making up fake reasons why the real problems exist. If you're so convinced that dropping out of school is the end of the world, just think about some of the apps that you use on your phone every day. Facebook, Twitter, and Spotify were all created by people who dropped out of college, and now they're making the apps that are sucking your life away from you because you're so addicted to them. But yeah, dropping out of college was a problem because they're clearly the hobo down the street living in the cardboard box. No, dude, they're controlling your life through your phone. That's how powerful these college dropouts are. I think colorblind societies open people's lives up for possibilities and options and choices that are not dictated by their race, but rather by the things that they do, the people that they meet, the opportunities that they get. And it opens up a person's life to many, many, many good things. Well, that concludes this episode of Systemic Stupidity, where we systematically discuss the systemic stupidity that has been plaguing America today. Have a good night.